Chapter 36 Geto's Collapse. Gojo and Geto stood in the middle of the hospital room. Geto had on a pair of Gojo's gray sweatpants and a white t-shirt. He was shifting around in his sneakers, not having worn shoes for months. It was also the first time in a while that he wore his long hair pulled back. Gojo took out a black hoodie from his backpack and handed it to Geto. Geto took it from him and slipped his arms in the sleeves. Gojo slung the back over his shoulders and started to zip up the hoodie for him. "I can do it myself," Geto snapped, holding Gojo's wrists. "I know you can, Gojo had already zipped it halfway up, but stopped after Geto grabbed him. Gojo was getting nervous about the journey ahead and didn't realize he was acting like a father getting his kid ready for the first day of school. He went to the door and Geto followed. They stood in the open doorway and Gojo lifted his hand, palm out. A faint shimmer rippled in the air and folded over them, slightly muting the colors and sound from outside the barrier. It was like looking through opaque glass. It was the first of many veils Gojo would cast to keep the two of them out of sight and safe from the world. Geto looked around at the change in the air, but didn't say anything. He followed Gojo into the empty hallway. The nurse's station was temporarily abandoned, as Gojo requested, to lessen the overstimulation of encountering too many people at once. They took the elevators and Gojo pressed the first floor button. When the doors closed and the elevator jolted on its way down, Geto reached out and grabbed Gojo by the long sleeve of his shirt. They reached the bottom and stepped out into the lobby. Geto let go of Gojo's shirt, but trailed behind as they walked through the automatic doors at the exit and into the world. Fall was in full bloom. The grass, trees, leaves, flowers, and morning sun was a vibrant mix of all shades of greens, oranges, reds, and yellows. It was a little chilly and quiet. There were cars parked off to the side, but they were the only people walking around. Geto was very quiet as he looked around, walking behind Gojo. At one point, he drew the hood of the sweatshirt over his head, almost covering his eyes. Gojo kept moving forward silently, through the park near the hospital and past the neighborhoods leading up to the trail to Tokyo Metropolitan Cursed Technical College, more commonly referred to as Jujutsu High. The sidewalk changed to a stone path as it started to ascend slightly up a hill. Geto started to slow down and Gojo turned to him. Geto hadn't gotten exercise like this in a long time and needed to catch his breath. They stopped for a moment and Gojo tried to look at Geto's face underneath the hood, but Geto kept his gaze down. They continued walking until they reached the stone walls enclosing the school grounds. There was a faint smell of incense in the air, and the atmosphere buzzed with cursed energy. Gojo was so intent on entering the gates that he didn't notice Geto's breathing started to quicken even more, and it wasn't from overexerting himself. Gojo held the black iron gate open for Geto, who trudged slowly and heavily past the entrance. As Gojo turned to shut the gates, Geto stopped, and the hood of the sweatshirt fell back to reveal his face. His face and lips had gone pale. The grounds felt too familiar. The hum of cursed energy prickled his skin. A swirl of voices and faces came rushing in, unrelenting. Scenes of battles he had fought entered his vision. Geto tasted blood on his tongue, vomit in his mouth, and ash in his throat. He doubled over and pressed his hands to his belly, where the curses he had conquered lay dormant before, but now they stirred. "Suguru!" Gojo caught Geto before he hit the ground and cradled him as they sat on the cold gravel. Geto held his hands to his temples as if trying to keep everything out. His eyes were shut tight and he began to tremble. "No, no," Geto groaned. He heard the laughter of people mocking his curse technique. "Please stop." Geto's body spasmed violently in Gojo's arms. "Suguru!" Gojo's chest tightened. He was watching his friend, his partner, remembering who he was, and it was devastating. The strongest sorcerer felt powerless as he watched Geto shudder under the weight of all his memories. Geto wailed mournfully, and the sound of his utter sadness hit Gojo deep in his guts. "Suguru, I'm here. You're safe." For the first time in his life, Gojo let tears stream down his face freely. outside the privacy of his room. "You're safe, you're safe," Gojo repeated as he held Geto tight and watched as Geto's eyes fluttered and his breath shallowed as he surrendered to his collapse.